Hi guys, it's Raylan, and I know this is a weird setup, but we're at the park today because I wanted to get out and get in nature and talk to you guys about a really serious topic. I just woke up, didn't do my hair, makeup, nothing, just sitting here drawing, sketching this little thing, and thinking about a topic that's pretty serious to me, and that's feeling guilt with PTSD. And I wanted to talk to you guys about it a little bit, so screw the good lighting or the pretty fancy angles and having my hair and makeup done. Just woke up, went to the park, want to talk to you guys. So I noticed I feel really guilty asking people for help with my PTSD. I feel like I don't deserve it almost, or they shouldn't have to be burdened with helping with something they didn't cause. And that's held me back a lot in life. It's really made day-to-day things hard because I was in a situation, a relationship, where the person didn't understand my PTSD too well, and if I had a PTSD attack, they just didn't know how to handle it correctly. They would either, if everyone has their own triggers. For me, if I was, if someone held me close and tight and talk to me, sometimes it feels like you're being restrained and it's like, oh my goodness, it's scary and it's overwhelming, and other times you need to be held. And it felt like, to me, it was asking too much for somebody to try to understand that. And I've been in a relationship where when I tried to explain that, I was judged for it, and they didn't want to listen or hear what could make things better or how to handle something if my PTSD was acting up. And because they didn't want to learn or hear anything, I felt like I was just not worth it. My PTSD acted up that it was my fault and that I was just a burden to people. And that was really hard for me because that's not how I feel when I deal with someone who has PTSD. When I talk to a friend of mine who has PTSD, I want to help and understand and know their triggers and what makes them tick. But because it's myself, it's easier to feel like I wasn't worth it, per se. Like I wasn't worth understanding. And then it would be to the point where if I said something and I forgot what I was saying because of my PTSD, it would be kind of made fun of or looked at as like an excuse. Like, oh, well, is that just your PTSD again? I'd hear that all the time. Or if I said something and seemed short or seemed like just not really there or snappy or something because I was on edge, this person would say something along the lines of, oh, is it just your PTSD, or are you just being a jerk right now? Or you're just being unfriendly, or is it your PTSD? And it made me just constantly feel like I had to hide it. Or if I was dealing with something or sad or having a really bad PTSD attack, that I couldn't turn to people or talk to people because it was me being weak, or it just seemed like an excuse. And what sucked with it was that it wasn't an excuse, and it isn't an excuse. And I'd be reliving these flashbacks to the worst moments of my life, the worst thing that ever happened to me. And you're terrified in your mind in that moment. And so maybe you answer something quickly or in a more snappy tone, not even meaning to. And if I did that just because of nothing else, someone would get mad at me and annoyed at me. So it's natural to think someone will get mad and annoyed now. And in this kind of abusive situation, it was, if I said, oh, my PTSD was really on edge, and, I tried to somehow communicate that to you, and I didn't mean to be snappy, and then it would just be that deflection from the other person of, oh, well, if you didn't have PTSD, then you still would have been snappy at me, or it still would have seemed snappy, and then there wouldn't be an excuse. And so it got to the point where I would be reliving these awful things. Like something would trigger my PTSD, like a really loud door slam or fireworks going off. Something really severe. and I would be flashing back to someone really hurting me, or, raping me in the sense. Not to get too much into my PTSD story here, but I would be back in that moment with, this scary person with a gun, and that's what I'm seeing. And because I'm seeing this, I would respond in a slightly, agitated way or a defensive way because I'm scared. I'm seeing this in front of me. I'm reliving this moment right now, so I'm scared, I'm agitated. And because the other people couldn't see that, or the other person can't see that, it felt like I was being judged, or they were just judging it, like, oh, well, you're just mean, or you're just snappy, or you're just saying stuff like that, or using it as an excuse, when it's really the most traumatic thing you could imagine, because you're reliving that worst moment of your life again and again, and no one else can see it this time. You're looking down at my arms, I'm seeing the bruises and the cuts, and seeing someone's hands on me holding me down, and when, the other person looks at you, they just see you sitting here. But you're reliving something really, really awful and hard to go through. And it's really hard to communicate that with people. And I didn't exactly know how to film this video. I tried starting it like 3 or 4 times, because I really wanted to get across that it's not your fault. You didn't give yourself PTSD as much as they didn't give it to you. They should accept you for it. You should be around people who accept that you have it and help you, not people who belittle it or refuse to understand it or write it off as an excuse. Because all that does is make you repress things and hold them down. And all it did for me was cause me to keep it inside and not open up and not talk to anybody. And then when I'd go through something, or when I'd have a PTSD attack, I would just hide and let it, it would get worse then. I would just hide it away and not tell anybody. And then my partner would get mad at me or frustrated, or, oh, why are you being quiet? Why are you being, why aren't you talking to me? And if I did talk and I was off or forgetful or just not, fully friendly or myself, it was like, because I didn't specifically say my PTSD is acting up, it was just seen as an excuse, and it really hurt. It's just impossible to put into words how it feels, because sometimes when you have a flash, you can't talk about it, because if you start talking about it, you'll go deeper into a PTSD attack, for me at least, not for everybody. So I would just hope that they could see a blank stare, or just I do this with my fingers when I'm really nervous, just any of the little things that are telltale signs that I'm reliving something. And it just was too much to ask in that situation, or that's how it came off. And it's heartbreaking, because you don't mean to be a bad person or to hurt people, and it's hard when someone you care about just won't care enough to understand those basic things about you, or if they understand it, it seems like they don't actually care about it, because they're not willing to help you in the way that you need. And if all it is, hey, I'm forgetful in the moment because which I'm not a very forgetful person, I have a really good memory, but in a moment you might, as you're talking, forget what you're saying because you flashed and saw something else. So it's like, in that moment, just be patient with me for a minute. Or if I said, well, what's going on, in a snappy way, know that I'm scared, I'm terrified, I'm seeing something really scary, so I was snapping back into reality. And instead of getting mad or defensive right away, I just wanted someone to take a second and be like, oh, it's okay. Acknowledge that they knew it was my PTSD, and it's a real thing, and it's scary, and it's hard for me. And then we could have a perfect day and go on. But when you're in these situations with somebody, whether it's a relationship or a parent or a best friend or a boss or whatever it may be, where somebody just makes you feel bad for having PTSD, it's just so toxic and chaotic. And it's just the worst feeling, because you feel so low because you can't help it. You're sitting there, and it's something that you're seeing, this awful thing, and you're mentally reliving this horrible, horrible event. And then if you even flinch wrong or do anything, it's, People are make you feel like it's an excuse. Oh, is it just your PTSD again? Or even times when it's not your PTSD, you're just upset with somebody. Then, that was something that would come up. Like, I'd say, hey, that really hurt my feelings. Oh, are you sure it's not just your PTSD? It's like, PTSD didn't change who I am, my mentality, my IQ, my knowledge, my understanding as a person. I'd like to think that I'm somebody who has a good understanding of people, and I love helping. Helping people gives me so much joy and peace in life, and I love understanding things and learning. PTSD didn't take that part of me away. It just made certain other things harder. I'm still me. And that judgment of someone using your PTSD against you, or even without realizing it, making you feel guilty or ashamed because of it, and making you feel like you're being attacked because of something like that. It's the worst feeling in the world. And I wanted to make this video just because I'm sure someone else feels what I'm feeling too. And most of my videos I try to make with like a conclusion, with an end, something to really help you get through PTSD or depression or whatever. Not get through it or get over it, but to deal with it, to cope with it, to live with it. But I just wanted to make this video to say you're not alone. That I know what it's like to feel just judged, or like no one will understand you, because the few times you are brave enough to open up, sometimes people just are mean. But just know it isn't. It really isn't your fault. You weren't trying to come off short or walk into a room and forget what you went in there for because someone dropped a pan and that loud noise made you flash back into that worst moment of your life. And you deserve to have somebody who will understand you, who will be there, who will really hear your voice, hear your pain, and in that moment not think of themselves first. Because since I've had PTSD, and in my whole life I've always tried to put myself second. I always care about pleasing people first, about making them happy before me, about helping other people with other people's problems before my own. And in those moments, you just need somebody to care. Maybe you said what in a snappy tone, but instead of being defensive and caring about themselves first, you want them to just for 1 second think of you, because you didn't mean it that way. And if they really know you, they'll know that. Or if you were quiet for a moment, it's not because you're ignoring them or being mean. You were just sad. You're seeing something awful. You want them to love you enough to care, to really look at you and care, and see that you're going through something really hard right now. That it's not that you're just not there for them, or that you're not listening, or whatever it may be. Especially, I'm somebody, like I said, I get joy out of helping people and listening and helping, people get through their problems in their day-to-day life. That's what I do to be happy and to really center myself and ground myself. So it's really rare for me to ask for somebody's help, because I'm normally the one offering the help. So I feel even worse when it's in those moments that I have to have understanding, and it's like, it just seems it's too much to ask, and it's heartbreaking. It just makes you feel so alone. And I just wanted everyone out there with this to know, if you felt like this, I understand. There's someone else out there who totally gets what you're going through. And I know you want to take everyone else's problems away and be there for everyone else, and it's like you wish PTSD wasn't there, but you can't change that it is. And it sucks, because it's like, I don't want to be resented for something that I hate, that I didn't ask for. I want to be understood so I can cope and live as peacefully with it as possible. It's just really hard to feel alone, or feel like somebody won't see you or see what you're actually trying to say. They won't actually hear you. So I'm making this video to be a voice for someone. If you need to show this to a partner, or your mom, or your dad, or brother, or sister, anybody, a foster parent, a therapist, a teacher, whatever it is, just let them know that that's what's going on. It's not an excuse. Just every moment of every day, you could be reliving the worst thing that you went through. And when something happens, it's not just, oh, that firework scared me. It's that firework startled me, and it's making me relive something horrendous and awful and tragic that I went through. And it's really hard to go through. And we're still here and smiling, and most of the time living through the day with just like a sad undertone if it's not a huge bad PTSD attack. But it's still hard. And it's just, you want that basic recognition of, hey, I'm still here. I still care about you first. So if you see me stare off blankly for a moment, just know what it is, and don't be angry with me for pausing a second, or for being quiet for a moment, or for maybe seeming startled. Just want that basic understanding, because, for me personally, I'll go so much further and above and beyond for other people. I'm not asking for that back. I'm just asking to not be judged for something that I can't help and that I didn't ask for. And I know there's a lot of people who feel what I feel. So I want to make this video so maybe they'll listen to me if they won't listen to you. You're not trying to be needy. You're not trying to rely on other people or ask people to help you because you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. But just in those moments that are hard to understand why something bothered you, a tick tapping on the table, somebody who was wearing a hat a certain way that scared you, whatever scared you, maybe it seems so little to them, but it's not to you, because it triggered something in your memory that's making you relive something awful. It's just, to anyone who doesn't have PTSD, think of the worst thing you've ever went through, and just think of, if something as simple as not slamming a door loudly. If someone slammed a door loudly, let me reword this. If someone slammed that door loudly, you would have to go through that worst event, the worst thing you went through. Think about it. You'd have to go through it again and again and again, every time someone slammed that door. But if someone just didn't slam that door, you'd never have to go through it. That's why it seems so simple to say, hey, please don't slam that. Please don't slam that so loudly, at least. And but you don't want to ask that of people, because it feels like, I'm asking too much. I'm asking you to change little things throughout day-to-day life that shouldn't have to, because you didn't give me PTSD. But at the same time, should we have to relive that worst moment of life just because, someone couldn't notice a blank stare? Someone couldn't not slam a door in anger, or in general, just remember to shut the door reasonably, like a normal person. It's really not asking that much. And the consequences are huge. Yes, it might seem little to someone, like, oh, well, why can't I wear a purple hat, a purple baseball cap? But maybe someone's stalker, this isn't the case for me, this is just an example, but maybe someone had a stalker who wore a purple baseball cap. That's what gave them PTSD. So you wearing that purple cap makes them relive that worst moment of their life over and over and over. And to you, it's just a purple cap. So whereas you might think, oh, well, it's so simple, why can't I just wear a purple cap? Imagine what the person with PTSD is thinking. They're thinking it's just a purple cap to you. And to me, it's reliving this horrible nightmare where someone did something awful to me, or something really horrendous happened. I witnessed something awful. I felt something awful. Someone hurt me. And to you, it's just a purple hat. So as simple as it is, oh, it's just a purple hat, why can't I wear it? It's just a purple hat, why can't you take it off? And I know personally it's so hard to ask for help with PTSD in the first place, because you just feel so alone and so vulnerable already, and you don't want to seem more vulnerable, because you already are. Someone could set something off in you, and you're reliving the worst moment of your life, and you're scared, and you're sad, and you're depressed, and it's all, people can control it around you, and you have no control over if someone's going to set that off. You don't know. So it feels very vulnerable, and you don't want to ask for help in the first place. So just to anyone who doesn't have PTSD, know it is hard for people with it to ask that initial understanding of you. It's hard to ask for help in the first place. It's hard to ask you to not wear that purple cap, or to not slam that door, or to understand if we respond a little bit snappy in one moment. But just think about what we're going through. Just truly think about the worst thing that you went through in life. And if someone could make you never remember it again, or at least far less than you would, never you wouldn't have to go through it every day if they just put that cap down, didn't wear it. Wouldn't you ask that of me or of your partner or whoever it was? You would. But I just think it's very hard for people to understand. And that's why, people like myself will have PTSD and suck it up, and then you push it down so much and something sets it off and you have a horrible PTSD episode that didn't have to build up to that point, because you just hold so much guilt in asking for someone to take off a cap or to shut a door normally, or to just understand if you need someone to repeat something once, or if you needed a pause in a moment. But it's just it's hard because it feels like, it's something so simple, it's something so little, why should someone have to change it? If it really is so little and so simple and so meaningless, why can't they tweak those little things? You shouldn't have to change everything for somebody, no. You shouldn't. No one should have to. But the tiny little things through the day, not everything bothers everyone. And if there's tiny little things that could just make the day so much better and life so much happier, it really is worth it to, one, tell people about it, and to two, try to understand the person with PTSD. And for the people with PTSD, actually open up about what it is, why it bothers you. You can't tell everybody why a certain thing scares you, and you don't want to tell everybody why you have PTSD, of course. But just even say, hey, that it has to do with my PTSD. And if someone really cares about you, they'll take the time to understand that. They'll take the time to understand that you're not asking anything but to not relive something awful. You're just asking for a slight tweak in something, so you don't have to have something traumatic happen again. So that's my piece with this. I know it's a little all over the place. It's not the best worded video, and I'm a mess in every aspect right now, but I just wanted to make this video so there's someone out there talking to the people with and without PTSD on how to not feel guilty if you have it, and maybe how to think about things if you don't. So I'm, from the bottom of my heart, I really, really hope this video reaches the right people and that something good can come from it. Hang in there, everybody, and no matter what you're going through, know that there's someone out there who cares.